Let us welcome the man of the hour, President for International of FGX International, Mr. Bob Steed.
All right, how's everybody doing?
Hey.
We doing okay? We've had a lot of information on product today. Are you ready to switch gears and talk about opportunity?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk about business building for the next. I'm going to go about probably just short of an hour. Is everybody okay? Is everybody need to use the toilet or anything like that? If we need to take a break, we can take a break. I want to talk to you first of all about leadership. And because this is a group of leaders, I think it's appropriate. Because you're all leaders, I think it's appropriate that we can talk pretty candidly about how the business is built and what the expectations are of you as a leader, because I think all of you recognize there's a big difference between those who lead and those who follow. And the people that are in the room today I consider to be great leaders. But you know, if you're not sure if you're a leader or not, there's a very simple way to find out. Just look behind you, okay? If you have people following you, if you have people listening to you, if you have people joining your organization, you're a leader. And if you don't, well, you need to develop some leadership skills. But I do believe that every person has the ability to be a leader. And there's a couple of different ways to define leadership. The one that I think I like the most is leaders have this incredible ability to see more in other people than they see in themselves, okay? And that's a really important point. A leader is somebody who can look at a member of their team and they can see what they can become. They can see the leader inside of them. And sometimes they'll have more faith and confidence in that person and their ability than that person will have in themselves. And a leader will find a way to make that work, to bring out these professional qualities. Do you agree with that? And this is something that I have seen over and over again with leaders who come in and are very successful and ultimately make a lot of money in our business. Now, I think it's fair to say that that's the reason that we're here. We are here to make a lot of money because there are other places that we could be, there are other things that we could do with our time. But we are here to make a lot of money, and we're here to show other people how to make a lot of money, okay? That's what this is about. We talked yesterday about the fact that you know, money will not buy you everything, but one of the things that it can buy you is time freedom. And time freedom to me is, that should be the ultimate goal, okay? To decide what it is exactly that you do with your time. Now, I will say that it is a fallacy, it is false to suggest that the bigger your organization gets, the less you will have to do. I think sometimes leaders, meaning well, try to encourage others to come to our industry by simply saying, look, there'll come a time when you can just coast. There'll come a time when you can just kind of, do less and not be engaged. And I'm telling you that that's not true. Okay, I'm telling you that the bigger your organization gets, the more responsibility you will have. There'll be more people that count on you. But you know what? It's a good thing. And it's very, very rewarding. And it's hard to call it work when you ultimately enjoy the process. Would you agree with that? And so don't be one of those people that says, listen, just work as hard as you can for the next 24 months or 36 months and then you can take the rest of your life off, okay? That's not how it works. And I can also tell you from experience that taking the rest of your life off is no fun anyway. Most of you know my story, right? Built a very successful network marketing company, sold that company, retired, and I can tell you that, after just a couple of months of retirement, I was in a very bad space personally. And it was because, as I think I've come to realize, it was because I wasn't needed anymore. And I tell you, it's a hard thing not to feel needed. And so when people say to me, why are you doing this? You don't need to do this. I tell them, yeah, I do need to do this. I do need to do this. Because it's important for a person to be involved, engaged, and most importantly, needed, okay? It's really, really important. So those are a couple of notions from a leadership standpoint that I'd love to kind of put to rest. One that if you work hard for a short period of time, you can then retire, okay? And two, that if you build a really big organization, that somehow the workload is going to go down. One of the ways that I can tell a good leader is they always lead by example, don't they? They never ask their team to do something that they're not willing to do. But, and I hope you take a few notes on some of this because, these are techniques and things that I've seen over the last 28 years that just work so well for people. And as I've gone around and interviewed a lot of different millionaires and people that have been very successful, the stuff that I'm going to share with you over the next hour, these are the things that came as a result of those discussions. These are the things that I've learned personally over this last 28 years. And so I hope that you'll take notice. So, you never want to ask your team to do something you're not willing to do yourself. But let me just add this. Don't ever do something for someone on your team that they can do for themselves. Okay? And we see that a lot of times. We see people call up and they say, hey, I want you to call so-and-so for me. Right? Call so-and-so for me and bring them into my business. And my response would be, tell you what, let's get on the phone, you and I together, and we'll call so-and-so. Okay? And that's where you have a chance to kind of mentor them and to kind of help them and let them be a part of the process. Because here's what happens when you allow capable people to have you do the work for them. You create cripples. Okay? You create cripples. Anytime we do something for someone that they're capable of doing for themselves, you cripple them. And so it's really nice to be able to say to them, absolutely, love to help you. I will not make that call for you, but I will make that call with you, right? Is that the key word? I will make the call with you. That's part of mentoring. That's part of leadership. Because what happens is, eventually they come into a space where they no longer need you to be a part of that call. Because they've developed confidence, and they know that that's a call that they can make on their own. Does that sound right? Okay, and if you have any comments or questions as we go, you just let me know. Okay, how many packs did you buy when you came into your business? Now we talked for a second about leading by example. So let me ask you, how many packs of products did you buy when you came into the business? Now, some of you are going to say, well, I wanted to try before I buy, and I bought one. Some of us, I bought two, and some are going to say, well, no, I stepped up to the plate, and I bought 20 packs, I bought 30 packs, I bought 40 packs. And to you, I would say, congratulations. That is the right move, and it's the right move for a couple of reasons, okay? First of all, you'll be able to say to every person you bring, this is how I started, okay? And if they're looking to you as a leader and as a mentor, and they see that you started that way, how are they going to start? They're going to start that way, aren't they? They're going to start the way that you start. And so it's really important. Now listen, if you're looking at me and saying, well, that's not the way I started, well, that's okay, because it's not too late to go back, purchase the packs, and then carry on by saying, look, this is what I did, right? I ordered the packs, and I have the packs on hand. This is what you need to do too. How many products can you sell, pass out, distribute, or sample if you don't have an inventory, right? Zero. And what we know about this company is it is a company of sampling. It is a company of product distribution. And the one thing you cannot do is build your business from an empty shelf. You can't do that. I have not seen it ever happen in my career. We're certainly not going to see it happen here, okay? You have to have these products available. And in fact, what I hope you have is these products on you at all times. The product should be on you where you go, because inevitably you're going to find opportunities to share the product, right? Some of you have heard me talk about the fact you're going to see somebody do this, right? That's a sale, isn't it? You're going to see somebody rub their knee. That's a sale. You're going to see somebody arch their back. That's a sale. You're going to see somebody do this with their fingers. That's a sale, right? You're going to see all of these activities around you, and those are all opportunities to sell the product and introduce the product. As I will tell you, people come to me all the time and they say, well, how do I lead out? Do I lead out with opportunity? Do I lead out with product do I lead out with? And you know, the answer to me is very simple. You always, always, always lead with product. Okay? You always lead with product. You know why? Because if somebody is seeking opportunity and you share the product and they see the power and the uniqueness, will they not immediately understand the opportunity? Of course they will. But it is not the opposite. I cannot describe the opportunity and have somebody see the value if they don't understand the product. Does that make sense? And so if anyone ever says to you, how do you lead? Oh, we always, always lead with product. And it's good to be able to follow it up with, and by the way, you know that this is maybe the most powerful word-of-mouth business available today. It's a powerful opportunity. But it starts with product. Because here's the one thing we know about this industry. If the product is not sold, there can be no commission. If the product is not sold, there can be no commission. And so it doesn't matter how great the opportunity is. If we're not selling product, if we're not moving product, if we're not sampling product, there can be no commission. That's why the product has to be number one. And that's why we spend a good portion of the day today talking about the product, because you have to see that it is unique. You have to see that we have this trademark, patented, exclusive science. Nobody has it. We have it. It is powerful. Okay? It is almost powerful beyond description. And it just so happens to be a medical device that we can send to every person on the planet. So we've got some of these unique qualities that are working for us. Okay. I used to do a lot of research on the power of positive thinking, and it is such an important part of my life. It's really hard for me to be around anyone who is negative. Can you all relate with that? It's hard to be around somebody who speaks negatively, acts negatively, talks negatively about other people. That's hard for me. That's something that I don't value. I would sooner kind of walk away from that. But it's kind of interesting to note that we ultimately become exactly what we think of. We ultimately become exactly what we think about. Okay? And you know, you start to analyze that just a little bit, and realize there is a lot of power and a lot of truth in that simple statement. You ultimately become what you think about. And I can tell you that a lot of us set goals, and in our mind we think about where we want to be and where we want to go. And I like to refer to these positive goals as hope. Okay? We have hope. We have hope that we can achieve a certain status, a financial status. We have hope that we can live in a home of our dreams. We have hopes that our children can be educated at the finest schools. We have these great hopes, and I call these positive goals. But there's something that's interesting that kind of crops up in our lives sometimes, and these are something that I refer to as negative goals, okay? And who can tell me what they think is a negative goal? Does anything come to your mind? If a positive goal is hope, what is a negative goal? Because I will tell you that we all set them, and maybe we don't even realize sometimes that we're setting them. You know, I talk to people all the time, and they tell me, well, I'm not a goal setter. I say, really? I say, I bet you are, and you don't even know it. Okay? The problem is sometimes we're setting negative goals. You know what a negative goal is? It's a fear. A negative goal is a fear, okay? And so we have these fears that are out there, and if we reposition that to understand that it's a negative goal, then we can also understand how we can turn that around, how we can begin to have hope, and how these hopes then become our positive goals. So you see, we actually are goal setters. But sometimes we're not setting the right types of goals, okay? But remember, what we think is what we become. What we think is what we become. I remember when I was a little boy, my dad used to say, you're learning to ride your bike, and you're pedaling your bicycle, don't ever look at the things that you're trying to avoid, right? You're trying to steer around the rock, you're trying to steer around the car. What happens if you look at the rock? You hit the rock, right? What happens if you hit you see the car, you kind of stare at the car, you hit the car. And so as a youngster, you learn that it's very important what you focus on and what you look at, okay? And just always remember that what you think about is ultimately what you will become. And I think it's a good study. What is it that you think about in relation to your family, in relation to your business, in relation to your finances, right? In relation to your religion or anything else? What is it that you think about? And are the goals that you set positive? Are they goals of hope? Okay? Or are they fears? So it's a good opportunity to take kind of a personal inventory. Every action that we have in our lifetime is preceded by one thing. Every action that we have in our life is preceded by one thing. What is it? Can anyone tell me? It's thought, right? Our thoughts precede every action, every single action that we ever make. And so how important is it that we keep our thoughts in check? We keep our thoughts where they should be, that we keep our thoughts positive, because your thoughts are going to direct your action. And it will happen every single time, because it is impossible to take action without first thinking, right? And so we control our thoughts, we control our actions. That's a very important business principle, okay? So as we discuss leadership, and we discuss how we can influence other people, we want to make sure that our actions are in line with our thoughts, and our thoughts are in line with our positive goals and our hopes, okay? All right, just a few things on additionally on leadership, and then I want to talk about how we're going to apply some of these principles to actual business building, okay? And hopefully some of this will make sense to you. There are two things that a leader really needs to focus on. Two things. They both start with R, and I will tell you that as you develop as a leader, as your organization develops, you will get better and better and better at both of these, and ultimately these are the two things that will help you be very, very successful in this business. The first is recruiting, okay? The first is recruiting, and you're going to find that in the course of your career, you are going to recruit. Who can tell me when the time is that you can stop recruiting? Who knows when that time is? The time is never, right? Never. You can never stop recruiting. I have run into leaders who will tell me, I've stopped recruiting, I'm just managing my team, okay? I've heard people say that. I say, nonsense. That's nonsense. Remember, you're the example. And the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. The speed of the leader is the speed of the team. And if you're the example and you stop recruiting, what happens to the team that's looking at you as for an example, for support, right? And so there is never a time that you will stop recruiting in this business. And we're going to talk a little bit about how some of that happens here in a minute. The second R is retention. Okay? Retention. And you're going to find that there are certain numbers of people that are going to come into your business, and they're going to flourish, and they're going to do well, and that's going to be great. There are some people who are going to come, and they're not going to do well, and they're going to leave, okay? We know there's a certain amount of retention in this business, but if you can really focus on those two aspects of your business, you will always be successful in this business, always. As long as you're recruiting and teaching and challenging others to do the same, and as long as you have retention in the organization, there are very specific tools and methodologies that we can use to keep retention. And of course, the number one rule of retention is your people have to make money, and they have to make enough money to cover their auto ship, okay? That's kind of the minimum threshold. So people who are developing the business. Now, you should always have a lot of people that are in your business that could care less about the network, and that's just fine. All they want to do is use the product. They're happy to use the product, they love the product, don't talk to me about the business. That's okay. We love those people, right? And every organization needs those people. But we're talking about retention of the leaders in your organization. And the way you do that
is you make sure they make enough money to cover their auto ship. And then we start to climb the ladder. Then we make enough money to cover a car payment. And then we make enough money to cover a house payment. And then we make enough money to begin to create a lifestyle. Okay? Because you'll find nobody walks away from a lifestyle. They won't do that. They might walk away from a car payment, maybe. They will not walk away from a lifestyle. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's talk about business building as a principle of, and I'm gonna, let me just bring this whiteboard over here just a little bit. And there's a couple of mathematical formulas that I think are really, really key and that you might find very interesting. And is it okay if I suggest to you that your entire business can be broken down into a very simple mathematical equation? Is it okay to have that discussion? And I can tell you that I am not a mathematician. I hated math in school. But I can tell you that the numbers always add up. Ultimately, this business is all about math. Okay? It's all about math. Because 1 plus 1 is always going to equal what? Huh? 1 plus 1 will always equal. Are you guys helping me here? You listening? 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. You will find that it is exactly the same way in your business. So if you will take care of certain principles, they will always add up to some measure of success. Here are the two. Mathematical equations that are really, really important in your business, okay? The first one is this, and these are numbers that have come out of the Direct Selling Association. They're numbers that we've known of for a long time. They're numbers that I have seen that have borne true over my last couple of decades in the industry. The first one is this. You are going to have to give 5 presentations, okay, to bring 1 person into your business. Very simple math. You're going to have to do 5 presentations to bring 1 person into your organization. Does that sound pretty straightforward? And some of you are saying, yeah, that sounds right. You know, it seems like I give 5, I do bring 1 person eventually into the team. Okay? Fortunately, one of the things we find with PowerStrips, they work so well and they work so quickly that oftentimes this number goes up, okay? But we're going to use this number because it's an industry number, and it's one that's been used for a long, long time, and it's a good, clean number. Okay, here's the second equation. The second equation is that every member that you bring into your organization is going to equal between $10 and $15 a month to you in commissions, monthly commissions, okay? Is everybody okay with that? So, the 2 equations, very simple. 5 presentations to bring in a member, okay? And each member is going to equal $10 to $15. Now, here's the great thing about these 2 equations. The great thing is, I can now, based on these 2 equations, I can determine exactly what my income can be based on the number of members and the numbers of presentations, right? You know, because a lot of times, this is important because a lot of times people say, well, I can see that, is this thing running out of juice? They can say, I want to be able to make, I want to be able to make $5,000 a month, and the sponsor says, okay, well, just go out and just start talking to people. Okay, have you ever heard that before? Just go start talking to people. But there are people out there who are business-minded and say, you know what, that's not a strategy. A strategy is not just go talk to people, okay? Please break it down for me so I have an idea so that I can get my head around what's going to be required of me to make a certain income. Now, once we have these 2 equations, we can make some very easy mathematical assumptions. Okay, let's say that I want to make $500. Can you help me with the math? Okay, so I want to make $500. Okay, how many people am I going to need to make $500?
50.
Okay. You're going to need 50 people. Okay, is that right?
Yeah.
So I decide in my business I want to make $500. I know that to do that based on this formula, okay, we're going to use this number just for round numbers, that I'm going to need 50 people. Okay? Now, what about this part? How many presentations am I going to have to make? Okay? So we can pick any number of income that we're interested here. We can plug in our formula and we know how many presentations and how many people we're going to have to make that happen. Now that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? That's pretty straightforward. So let's just write down some numbers here. Let's say that we want to do it. We want to make $1,000 US in a month. Well, we know that that's going to take 100 people. What do we know about our presentations? Okay, we know that it's going to require 500 presentations. Okay, and we can just follow that all the way down. You know, a lot of people that I meet say, I don't even want to discuss the business until I'm convinced that I can be in an environment where I can make $10,000 a month. Okay? Well, that's okay. What do those numbers look like? Let's see, that's 1,000 people, right? And how many presentations? 5,000? 5,000 presentations. Okay. So that is a way that we can kind of get our head around the effort that's going to be required. Okay? Now remember, these are active people. So it isn't that we can bring in 50 and only 25 of them place an order, right? So these are active people, and these are the number of presentations that we're going to have to give. Now, here's the great part about our industry and why the industry works so well. We look at this number right here, because I think a lot of us in this room, we look at this number and we say, okay, that's where I want to be, and I'm going to call that step 1, okay? Because where I really want to be is down in here. But this is a pretty good first goal, okay? And a lot of people will feel that way. Now, a non-networker might come in and say, well, I think this is a good first goal for me, okay? But here's the beauty of our business. $10,000, 1,000 people. How many of these presentations are you going to have to give? Now that was an interesting answer. Someone said 5. Well, that's a possibility. That is a possibility using geometrics, right? The chances are it's probably a lot more than that, but that certainly is a possibility. But the point is well made, and that is that these 5,000 presentations are being made by a lot of good leaders that you are developing in your business, okay? And so what we know is that networking as a profession is not about bringing people in and expecting 100% of their effort, is it? It's about bringing a lot of people in and expecting smaller efforts that combine to give us that 100%. Does that make sense? And that's why network marketing traditionally generates so many millionaires every year. Every year they conduct these surveys. They determine that 80% of women millionaires on the planet generate their income through this leveraged system. 80%. That is enormous. What is the percent for men that generate their millionaires, okay, in a year? What's the percent of men? Does anyone know? 25%. So 25% of all millionaires that we know of on the planet, they used this form of leverage to generate their millions, and 80% of women. So is that proof that this is a system that works? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I would imagine that that 25% for men is increasing. We know that it's not decreasing, okay? So I hope that what you can do is you can look at your business from a mathematical standpoint. Because if you don't, then what you're really managing your business with is magic, okay? Magic, not math. And what happens with magic? Things disappear, okay? We don't want our businesses disappearing. We don't want our income disappearing. We want it based on science. We want it based on math. And this is one way that you can do it. Okay. Here's another thing I've learned about good leaders. Good leaders are excellent communicators. They're excellent communicators. And I hope that you have identified, as a leader, I hope that you have identified ways that you can communicate with your team on a daily basis, because this is really important. Some of the people that I know in FGX right now that make the most money, they are the best communicators. You see, we've got something amazing to share. And one of the things that I know about branding is if you follow 3 principles in branding, you'll always find some measure of success, okay? You have to have something to say. Do we have something to say? Yes, we do. You have to have something to say. You have to say it well. Okay? You have to be able to be concise, and you have to be able to say it well, and you have to be able to say it often. Okay? So those are the 3 primary principles of branding. And we're going to talk about branding here in a minute. But just remember, you've got to have something to say. You've got to say it well, and you have to say it often, okay? And you want to apply those simple, powerful principles in your communication. Now, are you sending out a daily communication to your team? Are you sending out weekly newsletters and information to your team? Are you letting them know about all of the upcoming events, all of the upcoming activities? Are you sharing with them testimonials? Okay? Communication is really, really key. A lack of communication creates confusion, and confusion stops production. It's very, very simple. And so we want to communicate. And what we want to be guilty of is over-communicating, okay? I'd love for your people to say, you send me too much information. That's okay. That's okay, because the opposite of that is a lack of information. That is a space where we can't live, okay? And we can't grow. Is everybody okay with that? Once you really begin to understand how important this communication is, there is a tool that you can use with your people that I have found to be absolutely invaluable. And this little tool is something that I call a strategy session, okay? Let me list this up here for you. A strategy session.